My daughter-in-law got promoted. She took the whole family out to a fancy dinner, but not me. Hours later, she texted me, "Heat up the leftovers in the fridge." "Don't waste them," I just replied, "Okay." Then I packed my bags and left. When they came home and opened the door, what they saw left them frozen. My name is Harold Porter. Most people call me Hal. I'm 65 years old, retired electrician out of Pittsburgh. Started as an apprentice at 20, got my license at 22, worked 32 years as a licensed electrician before I hung it up. I'm telling you this story not because I want sympathy, but because someone out there needs to hear it. It was a Thursday night in March. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a bologna sandwich on white bread, not because that's all there was. The fridge was full. I'd gone grocery shopping that morning, same as I did every week, but somewhere along the way, I'd stopped thinking of that food as mine. My phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up thinking it was my son Gary, calling to say they were heading home. It wasn't Gary. It was Stephanie, my daughter-in-law. "Hal, don't forget to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them." I read it once, then again. I set the phone down next to my half-eaten sandwich and sat there looking at the wall for a minute. While I was reading that text, Stephanie and Gary were at the Capitol Grill downtown, the kind of place where the cheapest thing on the menu is $85. They were there celebrating Stephanie's promotion to regional sales director. Gary was there, my grandkids, Tyler, 10, and Sophie, 7, were there. Stephanie's mother, Patricia, was there, her sister, her brother-in-law, 2 friends from the office, 9 people at that table raising glasses of wine. Not me, because it's a work crowd, Dad. You wouldn't really enjoy it. I typed back 2 letters, okay. Then I stood up, put my sandwich in the trash, and went upstairs. Let me take you back about 3 years, because you need to understand how I ended up in that kitchen with a bologna sandwich in a house I helped pay for. My wife Nancy died of pancreatic cancer. The doctors found it in February, and she was gone by July 5 months. We'd been married 38 years. After the funeral, I went back to our house in Dormont, the one we'd owned for 29 years, and I didn't know what to do with myself. Every room felt wrong without her. I'd walk into the kitchen in the morning and forget why I was there. Gary came by about 3 weeks after the funeral. He had that look on his face, the one he used to get as a kid when he needed something but didn't want to ask straight out. He and Stephanie were trying to buy a bigger place, he said. The kids needed more space, the market was rough, they'd been saving but couldn't cover the down payment. He didn't need to say the rest, I knew where it was going. I sold the house in Dormont for $120,000. It was the house Nancy and I had built a life in. Every corner of it had a memory. I gave Gary and Stephanie $68,000 for the down payment and put the rest in savings. They said I'd move in with them, help with the grandkids, be part of the family. It sounded like the right thing to do. What I didn't do, and this is the part I think about most, was put my name on the deed of the new house. Gary said it wasn't necessary. It's our home, Dad. We're family. Why complicate the paperwork? And I trusted him. I figured that was enough. What neither of us knew at the time, or what Gary had apparently forgotten, was that because I'd provided the full down payment, the title company had listed me as the primary owner on the original deed. Gary's name was on it too, but mine was first. And in the 3 years since we'd moved in, we'd never filed the transfer paperwork to change that. I didn't find that out until about 6 months after we moved in, when I went looking through the closing documents for something else entirely. I read my name on that deed 3 times, then I folded it up, put it in an envelope, and tucked it in the bottom of my toolbox underneath the socket wrench tray. I didn't tell anyone. I just kept going. The first year wasn't bad. I got up at 5:30, made coffee, got Tyler and Sophie ready for school. I fixed the circuit breaker in the garage the second week we were there, saved Gary a $400 service call, repaired the water heater, rewired the kitchen outlets Stephanie said were acting up, painted the back bedroom, replaced the back fence after a storm knocked 2 sections down, put new flooring in the mudroom, replaced the garage door after the spring mechanism failed. Stephanie would walk through while I was working and say, "Thanks, Hal," without looking up from her phone. Gary would pat me on the shoulder when he got home and say, "Dad, you don't have to do all this." But he never told me to stop, and the work kept coming. I didn't mind the work. That's not the part that wore me down. About 8 months in, Stephanie had some people from her office over for dinner, a Saturday evening. She'd asked me that morning to make my pot roast because everyone loves it. I spent 4 hours on that meal. Pot roast, roasted potatoes, green beans, homemade rolls. I had everything on the table by 6:30. When her guests arrived, I was finishing up the dishes in the kitchen. I heard Stephanie giving them a tour of the house. She walked them past the mudroom I'd retiled, past the kitchen outlets I'd rewired, into the living room with the furniture Nancy and I had helped pick out. I heard her talking about the renovation, the upgrades, what they'd done with the place. Then one of her colleagues asked who had done the electrical work because it looked professional. Stephanie said, "Oh, that's Gary's dad. He lives with us and helps out around the house." The colleague said, "Oh, nice, like a live-in handyman." Stephanie laughed, basically, yeah. I turned off the kitchen faucet, I dried my hands on the dish towel, I walked down the hall to my room and closed the door quietly behind me. Gary had been standing about 10 feet away when that happened. He heard every word. He never said anything to Stephanie about it. Not that night, not the next day, not ever as far as I could tell. That was the night I drove to the electronics store and bought a small voice recorder. It was $38 on clearance. I put it in my shirt pocket the next morning and didn't take it out for the next 6 months. I wasn't planning anything specific at that point. I just needed to know I wasn't imagining things. When you're in a situation like that, living inside it every day, you start to second guess yourself. You think maybe you're being too sensitive, maybe this is just how things are. Maybe you should be grateful you're not alone in some apartment somewhere. The recorder helped me stay clear on what was actually happening. File 3 was from a November afternoon. Stephanie was on the phone with her sister in the living room. I was replacing a light fixture in the hallway. She didn't notice me there. Having Hal around is honestly like having free home maintenance built in. He fixes everything, watches the kids, does the grocery run. Gary feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him his dad is better off here than rattling around alone in some rental. I finished wiring the light fixture. I tested it. Then I went back to my room and wrote the date and a summary in my notebook. File 7 was from January. I was replacing the bathroom exhaust fan down the hall from their bedroom. Their door was open a few inches. I wasn't trying to listen. Stephanie's voice. "He's fine for now, but when he slows down, we'll figure something out." "Gary, like what?" "Stephanie, I don't know, a senior place. We'll deal with it when it comes to that." Silence from Gary. I sat on the edge of the bathtub for a minute. Then I finished installing the fan, cleaned up the drywall dust, and went downstairs to start dinner. By the time March came around, I had 14 recordings and a notebook full of dates, summaries, and receipts. I kept the notebook in my toolbox underneath the socket wrench tray, same place I kept the copy of the deed. The notebook was detailed, every expense, every date, everything. August year 1, down payment contribution, $68,000 September. New refrigerator, $1,890 October. Washer and dryer, $2,455 Zistra. November. Living room furniture set, $3,200. Stephanie had said the pieces Gary and she brought from their old apartment looked dated. January, year 2. Master bathroom renovation, $6,500 February. Back fence replacement after storm damage, $800 March garage door, and spring mechanism, $1,200 various months. Mudroom flooring, $1,100 miscellaneous parts and materials across the 3 years, $2,260 plus the monthly mortgage contributions. The actual mortgage payment on the house was $400 a month. Gary paid $480. That was what he said he could manage on his salary. The remaining $920 came out of my Social Security check every single month for 36 months. $920 times $36 months. $33,620, $120. I added everything up on the last page of the notebook. Down payment, $68,000. Mortgage contributions, $33,120. Furniture, appliances, renovations, repairs, $19,400. Total, $120,520. I looked at that number for a while. Then I closed the notebook and put it back under the wrench tray. The part that stayed with me wasn't the money, not really. It was what I wasn't getting in return. Not a thank you most days. Not a conversation about how I was doing. Not a seat at the table when the family went somewhere worth going. Gary had stopped asking me to come along on things gradually, the way a habit fades out. At first it was just the work events, understandable. Then the dinners with Stephanie's family, then the weekend trips. Each time there was a reason that sounded fine on its own. Taken together, they added up to something I couldn't ignore anymore. The night of the Capitol Grill dinner, I checked the Instagram story Stephanie posted from the restaurant. 9 people at that table. I counted them twice. There were the kids in their good clothes, Gary in the white dress shirt I'd ironed that morning. Stephanie's mother, Patricia, her sister, 2 people from the office I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Celebrating with the people who matter most." I put my phone down and looked at the bologna sandwich I hadn't finished. Then it buzzed again. Stephanie's text about the leftovers. I typed okay and set the phone on the table. I sat there for another minute. Then I pushed back my chair and went upstairs to my room. I opened the closet and got out my large duffel bag. The one Nancy and I had used for the trip to the Outer Banks back in 2009. It still had the hotel tag on the zipper. I put it on the bed and started thinking about what was mine and what wasn't. I didn't pack everything, just what was clearly mine. My clothes, my shaving kit, the photo of Nancy and me from the Outer Banks, a few books, my good work boots. The Italian coffee maker I'd brought from the house in Dormont, the one Nancy had given me for Christmas the year before she got sick. Then I went to the toolbox in the corner of the room. I lifted out the top tray with the wrenches and reached underneath. The envelope with the deed, the notebook, the voice recorder with all 14 files on it. I put all 3 in the outside pocket of the duffel bag where I could get to them easily. Before I zipped it up, I sat down at the small desk by the window and wrote a note on a sheet of paper. I kept it short. Gary, I lived here for 3 years and gave this family everything I had. Tonight, Stephanie texted me about leftovers while she was having dinner at a $90 a plate restaurant without me. I'm done waiting for things to change. Check your nightstand. I'll see you at the notary's office. Dad. I folded the note and left it on the kitchen counter next to the stove where he'd see it the moment he walked in. Then I took the copy of the deed out of the duffel, put it in a fresh envelope, and clipped a yellow sticky note to the front. I wrote on the sticky note, "This house is titled in my name, has been since closing. I have documentation of $128,520 in contributions. We need to talk, not here. At the notary." I set that envelope on Gary's nightstand, propped up against the lamp where it would be the first thing he saw when he turned on the light. Then I went back downstairs, took the notebook out of the duffel, and made a copy of the expense summary page on the small printer I kept in my room. I walked to the kitchen and taped that page to the front of the refrigerator, right in the center. Right next to the sticky note Stephanie had left there the week before, reminding Gary to pick up dry cleaning. I looked at both pieces of paper on that refrigerator for a second, then I picked up my phone and called Leonard. Leonard is my older brother. He turned 70 last spring. Spent 35 years as a real estate attorney before he retired. Sharp as anyone I've ever known. He picked up on the third ring. "Hal, it's almost 11 at night. I know. I need a favor." "What happened?" I told him the short version. The deed, the notebook, the recordings, the text about the leftovers. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. "You're telling me the house is still titled in your name and you've been documenting contributions for 3 years?" "That's right. And you have recordings? 14 of them." He let out a slow breath. "Hal, Olivia needs to hear this first thing tomorrow. Can you be at her office at 8? Olivia is Leonard's daughter, 37 years old, runs her own family law practice over in Shadyside. I'd watched her grow up. Good kid. Turned into a sharp attorney. I'll be there," I said. "Where are you going tonight?"
"Carol's. Good. Go."
I hung up and called Carol. She and Nancy had been close friends for over 20 years. She lives about 2 miles away, lost her husband 4 years ago. She answered on the second ring and I told her I needed the spare room. She didn't ask a lot of questions. She just said, "Come now, I'll have the light on." I called an Uber, carried my duffel down the stairs and stood in the front doorway for a second. The house was quiet, the kitchen light was on, the folded note was on the counter by the stove, the expense sheet was taped to the refrigerator. The envelope was upstairs on Gary's nightstand. Everything was where it needed to be. I locked the front door and dropped my key into my shirt pocket. It was my house. I wasn't leaving the key behind. The Uber driver was a guy in his late 50s. He helped me get the duffel into the trunk without being asked. We drove through the neighborhood without talking much. I watched the house disappear in the side mirror. Carol had coffee waiting when I got there. Decaf. We sat at her kitchen table, and I told her the whole thing start to finish. She listened without interrupting. When I was done, she put her hand on the table near mine. "Nancy would be proud of you." She said, "I didn't say anything to that. I just drank my coffee." I slept better that night than I had in months. No alarm set, no list of things to fix in the morning. No sounds of the house waking up around me while I figured out how to make myself useful enough to justify being there. I woke up at 7, showered, and drove to Olivia's office with Leonard. She had everything laid out on her desk by the time we got there. She went through the deed, the notebook, and all 14 recordings with the same calm, focused look I remembered from when she used to do her homework at Leonard's kitchen table. When she finished, she looked up at me. "Uncle Hal," she said, "with what you have here, we can pursue eviction, back rent collection, or financial exploitation charges under Pennsylvania elder law statutes. The documentation is clean. The title is clear. You have recorded evidence that directly supports a pattern of intentional exploitation." "I don't want to destroy them," I said. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. "Then tell me what you do want." I thought about it for a second. "I want Gary to understand what he threw away, and I want them to live with the consequences long enough that something actually changes." Olivia picked up her pen. "Then let's give them exactly that. She sent the legal summons that afternoon. Mandatory appearance at the notary's office. Leonard and Olivia both present. Monday at 10 a.m. I didn't reply to any of Gary's texts that day. There were 14 of them by evening. Stephanie sent 5. I read them all and put the phone face down on Carol's kitchen table. That night I replied to Gary once, Monday, 10 a.m., notary office downtown. Bring Stephanie. Then I turned off the light and went to sleep. Tyler told me what happened when they got home that night. He came to Carol's house 3 days later and sat at the kitchen table and told me the whole thing start to finish. He's 10 years old and he remembered every detail the way kids do when something shakes them. It was close to 1 in the morning when Gary's car pulled into the driveway. Tyler said they were laughing when they came through the door. Stephanie kicked her heels off in the entryway. Gary called my name into the house. No answer. He called again, louder. Still nothing. Stephanie went to the kitchen first. She saw the expense sheet taped to the refrigerator. She pulled it off and started reading. Tyler said her face went quiet in a way that scared him a little. Gary found the note on the counter by the stove. He read it standing up. Then he went upstairs and found the envelope on his nightstand. He sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. He read the deed once, then again. Tyler said his dad set the paper down on his knee and just sat there without moving. The house is in his name, Gary said. It's been in his name the whole time. Stephanie grabbed the deed and read it herself. She read the sticky note. She sat down on the bed next to Gary, and the two of them didn't say anything for a while. Tyler said that was the part that scared him most. Not the shouting that came later. The silence first, I wasn't there for any of it. I was at Carol's drinking decaf and sleeping better than I had in years. Monday morning, I got to the notary's office at 9:45. Leonard was already there. Olivia came in a few minutes later with her briefcase and a coffee. We sat on one side of the table. The notary, an older man named Bernard who Leonard had worked with for years, sat at the head. Gary and Stephanie came in at 10 on the dot. Gary was wearing a dress shirt that looked like he'd slept in it. Stephanie had on a plain navy dress, hair pulled back, almost no makeup, not the woman who'd been posting photos from the Capitol Grill 4 nights earlier. They sat down across from us. Stephanie looked at the table. Gary looked at me. Olivia walked them through everything, the deed. The mortgage contributions $920 a month for 36 months, $33 and $12, $1,200 and $20. The itemized repairs and furnishings, $19,400. The full total, $120,520. She laid the notebook open on the table and slid it across so they could see the receipts taped to the pages. Then she opened her laptop and told them she had 14 audio recordings. Stephanie closed her eyes. Gary asked her to play one. Olivia played file 3. Stephanie's voice came out of the speaker clear as anything. Having Hal around is honestly like having free home maintenance built in. Nobody spoke for a moment after that. Gary asked her to stop the playback. He looked at Stephanie. She was staring at the table. I didn't know you said that, he told her. She didn't answer. He turned to me. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know she was saying things like that. I didn't know about any of this. I told him I believed him on the first part. I wasn't sure yet about the second. Stephanie spoke up then. She said she grew up without much. She said her mother had worked herself down to nothing for people who never appreciated it, and she'd told herself she'd never end up like that. She said somewhere along the way she'd become exactly the kind of person she'd always hated, and she hadn't seen it until she was sitting in a notary's office looking at a spreadsheet of everything I'd given and never been thanked for. It wasn't an excuse, she said that herself. She said she knew it didn't fix anything. I listened to all of it. Then I told them what I wanted, a formal property split. 60% in my name, 40% in theirs, recorded with the notary. My 60% would be rented to a woman named Paula, a widowed schoolteacher with 2 kids who needed a stable place to land. She'd pay $850 a month directly to me. Gary and Stephanie would share the common spaces with her family. The second condition, Gary and Stephanie would begin repaying the $68,000 down payment at $1,000 to $800 a month over 5 years. The third condition, Gary and I would go to family counseling once a week for 6 months, just the 2 of us. Gary agreed to all 3 without arguing. Stephanie nodded and kept her eyes down. Bernard prepared the documents. We were out of there by noon. That was 14 months ago. I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment in Lawrenceville now. Small place, clean, mine. I teach a basic home electrical course at the community center on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Retired guys mostly, some younger men who want to learn a skill. Good group. Gary comes by most Sundays. We have coffee. He asks how I'm sleeping, how my back is holding up, whether I need anything. It took a while before those questions felt real instead of practiced. Now they do. Paula and her kids moved in about 6 weeks after the notary meeting. Gary told me her daughter and Sophie became inseparable inside of a week. He said sharing the house has been an adjustment. He said it the way you say something that's hard and worthwhile at the same time. I think he's starting to understand what that feels like. Stephanie sent me a text last month, a photo of a pot roast she'd made. She said she found the recipe written on an index card tucked inside one of the cookbooks I'd left behind. Nancy's handwriting, I looked at that photo for a minute. Then I wrote back, "Looks right. Let it rest 10 minutes before you cut it." She sent a thumbs up. That's where things stand. Not repaired completely. Not the way it was, but honest, which is more than I could say for the last 3 years. Nancy used to tell me, "Hal, you spend your whole life fixing things for other people. One of these days, you're going to have to fix something for yourself." Took me longer than it should have, but I got there. If you're in a situation like mine, living in a house where you've given everything and somehow still feel like you don't belong, I want you to say something specific. Document what you contribute. Know what you own. Don't assume that blood or loyalty will protect you if the people around you stop paying attention to what's fair. You have the right to walk out the door. You have the right to be treated like you matter. And it is never too late to remind people of that.